Hey guys, Tammy here, and today I'm going to talk about, do courts split up siblings? This is a question that I get asked occasionally for a variety of reasons, and courts are really hesitant to do this unless there's a safety risk. I have seen a couple times where it does happen, and so I'm going to kind of give you an example of the couple times that I have personally seen this happen, although I will tell you it's not very common. Before we dive in, as always, if you like this content, please hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel so that you get notified as new videos are released. And as always, please share it on social media to help as many people as we possibly can. When you have full siblings, and I say full siblings because I think sometimes we feel like half siblings in particular, and even sometimes step siblings, we feel like those are a priority sometimes, and we'll want to align schedules and do different things like that so that the children are together or whatever. And those relationships are valued by the court also. But when I'm talking about not splitting up siblings, I'm specifically referring to, full siblings who are going back and forth between the same two parents, right? The same two households. That's really what I'm referring to when we're talking about this. Now, when there is a safety risk, I have seen the court split up the siblings, but that's pretty rare. And when I say safety risk, I mean like possibly there is conflict between the two siblings. Like I've seen situations where a client had boys and she had 3 boys, and 2 of the boys were at ages where they just were having altercations. Those altercations didn't really seem to occur in dad's house as much. And, I think sometimes that's true, particularly of boys, because dads are just kind of bigger, stronger, more physically able most of the time. And so I think when boys hit those teenage years where that testosterone starts kicking in and they become stronger, physically and all that, and kind of more able to overpower mom in particular. I think you'll see a lot more of these kinds of behaviors come out in mom's world. I have seen dads that go, well, this doesn't happen in my world, which is unfortunate. I think that's a bad response if you're dad. If you're dad, your response needs to be, young man, this is not to happen. If I find out this is happening when you're with your mom, you're going to be in trouble. That's a much better response, because just by nature, they're going to feel that they can overpower mom most of the time. And most of the time they can. My boys could with me when they got to a certain age, especially, 15, 16, 17, they get in there. I'm a 30 to 40-year-old woman. Yeah, they can probably take me at that point. So it's great when dad can be supportive. But anyway, I had a situation where, the children were having arguments and having physical altercations. And so there was some concern about the safety issue. This didn't seem to happen during dad's parenting time. What they started to do is kind of split up the time more, where one of the children, I think this was like a week on, week off, if I remember. And so what they started doing is rotating the kids in and out separately. So the 3 or 4 days during the week that the child was with dad, the other child was with mom, and then they swapped them. And then they were only together on the weekends, so that it was a limited amount of time to try to limit the possibility of conflict, being able to have them be at dad's most of the time when they were together, because the conflict wasn't happening there. Okay. So there's different things that you can structure in the parenting plan to try to deal with some of this. And you don't want to totally separate them and not have them see each other at all. And if you can get the other parent to work with you and cooperate, you're using the techniques I teach you, then hopefully you can structure something yourself where you don't have to get the court involved. Because if you get the court involved and you've got siblings that are having physical altercation, high likelihood you're going to have an attorney for the children or guardian ad litem or custody evaluator, somebody of that nature probably involved if you're having, physical altercation between the children. So honestly, if you can come up with a way to structure the parenting plan that eliminates some of this, familiarity breeds contempt, they always say, right? So if you can usually just kind of split them up for a while, it will help. We actually did this with Thomas's children with the consent of mom because Thomas's boys are only 11 months apart. So it was really difficult. My boys were 4 years apart. And so that was a little easier because, my message to the older one was always like, hey, he's 4 years younger than you. Although, make no mistake, the younger one is very scrappy and could definitely hold his own once they got beyond a certain point. But Thomas's kids were closer in age, and so the conflict was a bigger problem. I remember sitting down, we have a 2-story house, and I remember sitting downstairs with Thomas one night. And if you don't know who Thomas is, he's my late husband. He was an attorney, and he passed away in April of 23. And you can go back and look at previous episodes and learn about that. But we were sitting downstairs one night, and we just heard like boom, 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 boom. And we looked at each other, and it's kind of like, okay, is somebody just like getting out of the shower? What's going on? And we sat there, and the sound happened again. And my eyes got real big, and I looked at him and I said, they're having conflict. And he came running up the stairs. And, Thomas is a pretty decent sized guy, 6'1", 210, 220. So he got in the middle and was able to separate them. But that definitely became a problem actually, even after he passed, because they did have an episode or two of conflict. And thankfully on one of them, one of my sons was here, and my son is, my sons are about 10 years older. So he again was physically able to get in the middle of them. But we did have a period where the conflict got bad enough that we actually started rotating them back and forth between mom's house and our house on slightly different schedules so that they only overlapped at each house a day or two, in order to kind of build in giving them some space, because they share a room in both houses. There's other children in the houses, and they share a room in both houses. So there's a lot of togetherness for them, right? And when you have teenagers that are starting to go through the puberty cycle and hormones and all that kind of stuff, it can be a recipe for conflict. Now, the one other time that I have seen the court make the decision to split the siblings up is Thomas had a case several years ago, and these children are actually grown now, where each of the children was alienated from the other parent. So each child did not want to see, there was two children, and one child did not want to see mom, and the other child did not want to see dad, was angry with the opposite parent over the whole situation or whatever. The court actually said, okay, this child's going to live with this parent, this child's going to live with this parent, but they still ordered the parents to take the children to a neutral place like a park or a restaurant or whatever once a week on Saturdays so that the children could see each other and spend a few hours together on that weekend. Even though each child didn't want to be with the opposing parent, the court still recognized that there's a bond in that sibling relationship, and that it was important to continue to foster that despite the fact that they, weren't going to live with the opposing parent. Again, very uncommon situations, but you have to be able to get creative and try to solve the problems on your own if you can. Obviously, the court's going to bring in therapy and, different things like that to also help resolve some of the issues. But you got to kind of get creative and think outside the box if you are having this issue, and kind of think of how you can help incorporate space for the two children having conflict. And, maybe you don't have a situation where you can ask the other parent for adjustment in the schedule or some kind of help or whatever, but maybe there's creative things you can do within the home to try to keep them separate and out of each other's hair as much as you can. So if you'd like some additional help with this issue or anything else in your custody matter, you can go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. There's a link on that page where you can book a time to speak to a member of my staff and learn more about my services and how I might be able to support you on this journey. All right. See you guys next time.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to